Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for joining us again. Going to be speaking with Mr. James Saperstein, President and CEO of AzureRx Biopharma Incorporated. He's joining us on the program to talk a little bit about the continuing need for therapeutics to treat COVID-19, just a bit about SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19 and how it can remain trapped in the GI system, and a little bit about long-haul phenomenon. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Mr. James Saperstein, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you very much for having me. My pleasure.
Great. Well, give us a little bit about yourself and about your company, AzureRx Biopharma, if you would.
Sure. Well, I've been in this business 37 years, mostly an infectious diseases person. I've launched or been part of 23 drug launches, mostly in the infectious disease space, a few gastroenterology products as well, but I've spent a good part of my career working in HIV. And launched, probably some of the most important products into HIV when we were in crisis mode. Mm-hmm. So COVID is not anything that's strange to me. AzureRx is a gastroenterology company. The last 15, 16 years, I've been CEO of smaller companies. Joined AzureRx in late 2019. And we have a lead product called MS-1819, which is specifically geared towards chronic pancreatitis patients and patients in cystic fibrosis. That's where we're doing some studies right now, cystic fibrotic kids who have GI issues. And I licensed in a product called niclosamide because niclosamide, we felt very confident, can help us in the treatment of COVID. So we're basically a GI company, a gastroenterology company, but we are looking at one infectious disease product for COVID.
So how does COVID-19 affect the GI system?
That's a terrific question. I think what we're trying to understand right now as scientists is why we have people who are not doing better on therapy. For instance, and some people who have contracted the disease, they've gotten better, their immune systems have kicked in, but then they continue to have problems. And we call those folks the long haulers. And they've got problems breathing, they've got problems cardiac-wise. And the reason we believe is the virus is acting very similar to other viruses we've had in the past, which is they hide. And they hide in reservoirs within the body. And we are betting that one of the reservoirs where the virus is hiding is in the GI tract. There is data that shows over 48% of patients who are COVID positive have the virus, what we call the virus RNA, or remnants of the virus in their stool. Therefore, even though they're quote unquote cured of COVID, and they have enough antibodies to fight the disease, the virus is still very proliferative in their GI tract. So our drug is going to clear the virus from the GI tract, and hopefully we'll look at it as a preventative measure to keep it from coming into the patient's system as an antiviral.
So how does it work to first clear the GI tract and not dissipate in the system to prevent further infection or advanced infection?
Well, niclosamide has been around since 1982. It's not a new drug. It's a repurposed drug, but it's an injectable, and it's really used outside of the United States, although it was approved here in the United States in 1982 by FDA. We have come up with a new version called a micronized oral formulation. So we will be the first niclosamide to take as a pill. But it is not systemic. And what does that mean? That means that it doesn't go, it's not like an injectable or something that goes right through your tissues into your blood. It basically does what it needs to do in the GI, and it has this antiviral activity. It kills the virus, and then the virus flushes out with the rest of all the contents out of the GI system. So when we looked at this, why did we do this? Because there's an organization called the Institut Pasteur in Korea, which tested all agents that had antiviral activity against COVID-19. And niclosamide had the highest rate of killing the virus. So there are other companies, I should say, outside the United States are developing injectable niclosamide for COVID. We will be the only oral agent niclosamide for COVID.
So is this something that is going to permeate the system as an injectable and be just as, hopefully, as effective as the therapies that are being developed now?
Yeah, I mean, I think as an injectable, it's also non-systemic, so it goes in the bloodstream, comes right back out, and then goes through, it just doesn't flow through the bloodstream. So it remains to be seen how effective it's going to be, whether it will be more effective just being non-systemic in the GI, where we deliver, let's face it, you swallow a tablet, it goes right into your GI system. It doesn't go into your tissues. So we hopefully will clear the virus from those tissues. The injectable, we'll see. We'll have to do a comparative study to that. But we're confident, based on the early data we've seen in animals, that it does work. We will be going into a trial in the next several weeks, which we call a proof of concept trial phase, to be able to prove this.
And what's the timeline, do you think, on that trial would be?
We hope we can get the trial completed in about 8 months, which takes us into the first quarter of next year. It really depends on how quickly we can recruit patients. But we're ready to go. We can shorten it. We will.
Talk about some other indications that you're working on there at AzureRx Biopharma, if you would.
Sure. So for niclosamide, quickly, we're working on something called checkpoint inhibitor colitis. These are products that actually all your listeners see on TV, Opdivo, Yervoy. These are cancer drugs that are doing extremely well in the cancer field. One of the side effects that some of these patients are getting are diarrhea and colitis. And we're very confident that niclosamide will help with these patients, with their side effects. Again, it's an oral agent. They don't have to go to the hospital, take it. And then MS-1819 finally is for cystic fibrosis. It's for pancreatic enzyme replacement therapy. And these are patients that take pig-derived therapies. This is a humanized form. We have data that's coming the first quarter, literally in 3 weeks this year on our monotherapy trial. And we have a combination trial that's coming in the second quarter of this year, where we're combining our product with existing therapy for those patients who are failing therapy. So we're excited. We have a lot of data, a lot of news coming in 2021. It's really going to be AzureRx's year.
Give us a website where we can learn more.
www.azurrx.com, azurrx.com.
Great. Again, that website is www.azurrx.com. James, I appreciate you joining us here on Health Professional Radio. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Mr. James Saperstein, President and CEO of AzureRx Biopharma Incorporated. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Listen in, download it, SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Health Professional Radio.